Pope John Paul II, widely credited with transforming the Catholic Church, attracting massive crowds on his trips around the world and appealing to those outside the Catholic faith, but he never wavered from the Church's traditional teachings. Joining us now here in Rome is Father Raymond DeSouza, Fox News contributor, who's been helping us out through the week and for the weeks to come. Father, good to see you.
Good evening.
As the Church transforms again with the election of a new Pope, what new roads do you see it traveling? What reforms do you see the body of the Church being receptive to now?
Well, to take the question, technically one of the roads to be traveled is China and another one Russia. The great desire of this present or now deceased Holy Father was to go to Russia. The Russian Orthodox Church did not offer an invitation, so he didn't go. He wanted very much to go to China, and the Chinese government didn't go. So those will be two major countries that the next Pope hopefully will get a chance to visit. It was, if you look back, Pope Paul VI who wanted desperately to go to Poland in 1966, and the communists said no. John Paul II was able to fulfill that wish. So in terms of literal roads to travel, Russia and China are the ones that one might expect the next Pope to try and to get where John Paul II was not allowed to go.
One place he was allowed to go, it was overshadowed by our own political situation in the United States at the time, was to Castro's Cuba. Castro has now declared 3 days of mourning, and it seemed that he had a real effect not only on the people in Cuba, which is a heavily Catholic nation, but even on Fidel Castro. And you have to figure if you can have an effect on Fidel Castro, the road's wide open.
One of the great stories about that trip to Cuba in 1998, it was, I guess, in January, the Monica Lewinsky thing at the same time.
Sadly.
The Pope's spokesman, Joaquin Navarro-Valls, was sent there in the months before to negotiate the final details of that trip. And when he got in there to see Fidel Castro, who was a very voluble man, gives long discourses, Castro said, "What is the Pope saying?" And Joaquin Navarro-Valls said to Fidel Castro, "I envy you." And Castro said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Well, because the Pope prays for you every day that a man of your formation will return to the faith." And apparently, according to Navarro-Valls, Castro was a bit taken aback by that. I think probably touched by it. He hasn't really changed his behavior, but when the Pope was in Cuba, he wore a suit and he showed some moderation, at least.
There was a great deal of moderation in the months after, at least for a short period of time.
And since then, there have been a lot of dissidents that have been clamped down upon. So one can't say a lot has changed permanently. But I would imagine that that visit, Castro doesn't got a lot of international visitors, and the Pope wanted to go there to meet him and his people. And so probably that has maybe touched Castro in some way. And those 3 days, it's a good gesture.
The Pope talked about wanting to spread the Church into third world countries and the importance of that, growing the faith and spreading the word in those countries. How successful was he in those efforts, and how much is yet to be done?
Well, it's not a matter of growing. The growth is already there. About 70% probably over the next little while of the Church in terms of numerical number of Catholics will be in what we call the third world. Explosive growth in the last 27 years in Africa. Those of us in North America, Canada, the United States, we're accustomed to declining the number of priests, declining the number of seminarians. The worldwide figures are actually up. For seminarians, there are almost twice as many seminarians today as there were 27 years ago. The bulk of that growth has been in Africa, actually. So in terms of will the Church grow there, it's already growing there. But growth has its own challenges. And so that'll be a challenge for the next Pope, is that growth also provides challenges, and Africa would be one place, but also Asia. Asia is the most populous nation, the populous continent, sorry, and also the least Christian. So from the point of view of Christians and proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ, that's the great mission land. The Pope used to say around the time of the Jubilee that the first millennium was the evangelization of Europe, the second millennium the evangelization of what we call the New World, and maybe the third millennium with the evangelization of Asia.
We'll see. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you again soon.
Yeah.